out of your life. Garbage in, garbage out. Excellence in, excellence out. Step 4. Track. So let's get honest. What do you want? I don't mean what do you think you can get. I don't even understand your mission. You get focused. You get serious, you get results, and people around you will notice. They'll ask, "What changed?" And the answer will be simple: clarity. Clarity also builds confidence. When you know what you're after, your actions feel intentional. You stop second-guessing every move. You stop doubting your decisions. You stop waiting for permission. Clarity makes you bold. It gives you a sense of ownership over your life. Because now you're not just reacting, you're creating. You're designing your life on purpose. And that's a powerful shift. But clarity doesn't come by accident. It requires reflection. It requires solitude. It requires sitting with yourself and peeling back the layers of noise, fear, and distraction. It means putting down your phone. It means tuning out the opinions of others. It means turning inward and asking, what do I really want? Most people are afraid to ask that question because once you know, you can't unknow. Once you define the life you want, you become responsible for building it. And responsibility is scary. It means you can't blame the world anymore. You can't blame your past. Describe it, define it, declare it. Because once it's clear, you'll know what to do next. You'll start spotting the right opportunities. You'll start meeting the right people. You'll start taking the right actions. All because you finally decided to get clear on what you truly want. Small disciplines repeated daily create massive results. That's one of life's greatest secrets, but most the same is true for success. Reading 10 pages today won't make you a genius, but read 10 pages every day for 6. That discipline created that result. And here's something to remember. Discipline is a skill. It's not something you're born with. It's something their mind. They pay attention to the food they eat, the clothes they wear, the way they look, but they ignore the information they consume daily. And yet, the mind is the foundation of all success. If your thinking is weak, your life will reflect it. If your mindset is cluttered with negativity, fear, and doubt, your actions will be inconsistent and your results will suffer. But if your mind is filled with strong ideas, powerful beliefs, and focused direction, you become unstoppable. Your future is not built in a day, and neither is your thinking. It is shaped little by little through repetition. Every book you read is a brick. Every podcast, every meaningful conversation, every moment of reflection, these are tools that shape your mental framework. And that framework decides how you show up in the world. It decides how you respond to challenges, how you handle opportunity, how you recover from failure. That's why feeding your mind must become a daily discipline, not an occasional activity. You don't go to the gym once and expect to be fit. You don't eat one healthy meal and call yourself healthy. In the same way, you don't listen to one good idea and expect it to carry you through life. You need consistency. You need input that stretches you, challenges you, calls you to grow. Because what you put in is what comes out. If your daily routine is filled with noise, endless scrolling, gossip, drama, low-quality entertainment, don't be surprised when your thinking feels foggy and your confidence feels low. The mind craves substance, more composed, more creative. Not because you're special, but because you've been feeding your mind what it needs. There's a principle that says your outer world will always reflect your inner world. That means if you want better results, you need better thinking. And better thinking comes from better input. When you hang around people who complain all day, you start to complain. When you surround yourself with people who blame and make excuses, you start doing the same. But when you choose to spend time with people who think big, speak with purpose, and act with clarity, their mindset rubs off on you. Their language becomes your language. Their focus becomes your focus. And slowly, your future begins to shift. Not because of luck, but because of input. This also applies to how you speak to yourself. Self-talk is input too. Every time you tell yourself you're not good enough, that you're behind, that it's too late, you're feeding your mind poison. And eventually it starts to believe it. But when you speak with encouragement, when you remind yourself of your progress, when you talk like someone who values their potential, you're thinking while you walk, drive, or do your chores. Choose conversations that challenge you, not just entertain you. Write in a journal so your thoughts don't pile up and cloud your clarity. Reflect on your day. Learn from it. Ask better questions. All of these are ways to feed your mind with purpose. They may not seem like much at first, but the compound effect is real. A little bit every day adds up. And 6 months from now, you'll think differently, speak differently, and act differently. Not by accident, but by design. You have to understand that the world is constantly trying to program your thinking. Every ad, every headline, every trending post, it's all trying to shape what you believe and how you feel. If you're not careful, your mind becomes a dumping ground for other people's agendas. You start reacting instead of creating. You start chasing trends instead of building principles. But when you take back control, when you become intentional about what you consume, something powerful happens. You start leading your life instead of following it. You stop getting pulled in 1,000 directions and start moving with clarity and purpose. The best part is, your mind is limitless. It doesn't get full. The more you learn, the more it wants to learn. The more you grow, the more it craves growth. And every new idea you absorb becomes part of your toolbox. You never know when you'll need it. Maybe it'll show up in a conversation, maybe in a business decision, maybe during a moment of crisis. But it will show up. Because input never goes to waste. Every lesson, every insight, every bit of wisdom, it all gets stored. And when the time comes, your mind will deliver it, your thinking. And your thinking will always rise or fall to the level of your input. That's the equation. That's the reality. And that's why you can never afford to take your input lightly. Not if you want a future worth living. Not if you want to grow into the person you were designed to become. Measure what matters. Progress is built on awareness. If you want to achieve anything meaningful, you need to know where you're starting, where you're going, and how far you've come. Most people set goals but never track them. They make plans but never measure their progress. Then they wonder why nothing's changing. You can't improve what you don't track. You can't master what you don't monitor. When you measure, you bring clarity to the process. You create structure around your efforts. You make the invisible visible. Because progress doesn't just happen by chance. It's created through awareness. Think about a pilot flying a plane. They don't just take off and hope they land in the right place. They use instruments. They monitor their altitude, their direction, their speed, their fuel. If something's off, they correct it mid-air. That's the same principle you need in your life. You're the pilot, and your life is the flight. If you're not checking your indicators, how do you know if you're drifting? How do you know if you're off course? Measuring gives you the power to course correct before things get too far gone. Progress can be slow and subtle, and that's exactly why measurement is so important. You might not feel different from one day to the next, but when you look at a journal from 3 months ago or a record of how many days you showed up, you realize just how far you've come. And that realization builds momentum. It fuels confidence. It tells your mind, this is working. Keep going. But when you don't measure, your progress becomes invisible. You start questioning yourself. You feel stuck even when you're not. And that feeling leads to discouragement and eventually to quitting. Measurement also brings honesty. It forces you to face reality. You can't lie to yourself when the numbers are in front of you. If you said you'd work out 5 times a week and your log shows 2, the truth is clear. That kind of honesty is uncomfortable, but it's also freeing. Because once you see the gap, you can close it. Without measurement, you stay in denial. You make excuses. You tell yourself stories that keep you stuck. But when you track your actions, you cut through the noise. You get a real picture of your behavior, and real behavior leads to real results. It doesn't have to be complicated. You can measure anything that matters to your growth. Track how many days you stick to your morning routine. Track your time spent on meaningful work. Track your workouts. Track your reading. Track your finances. Track your mood. Track your habits. And it doesn't need to be perfect. It just needs to be consistent. Because over time, those small measurements paint a big picture. They show you what's working and what's not. They give you data to make better decisions. They help you build habits that last. When you measure, you create accountability. Not just to others, but to yourself. You create a system that says, this matters enough to track. And when something matters enough to track, it matters enough to improve. You bring attention to it. And attention is the first step to transformation. You can't change what you ignore. You can't fix what you're blind to. That's why people who achieve consistent results are also people who consistently measure. Measuring also protects you from emotional decision-making. Because let's face it, emotions lie. Some days, you'll feel like you're not making progress when you actually are. Other days, you'll feel like you're crushing it, but the data says otherwise. That's where measurement steps in. It gives you an anchor. It gives you truth. It gives you a foundation to build from. Instead of riding the roller coaster of feelings, you start building on facts. And that shift changes everything. Measurement The act of writing things down creates mental clarity. It helps you prioritize. It forces you to be honest. And over time, it becomes take one more step when you want to quit. Everything changes. You begin to think bigger. You begin to act bold. Set. Protecting your environment isn't selfish, it's strategic, because the cost of staying in the wrong environment is far greater than the discomfort of creating a new one. And sometimes it means creating a new circle entirely. Seek out mentors, join communities, find masterminds, listen to people who have already walked the road you want to walk. In today's world, your environment isn't limited by geography. You can fill your room with wisdom from the greatest minds through books, videos, courses, and podcasts. You can connect with like-minded people online who challenge and support your journey. You don't need permission. You just need intention. You just need to decide that your future matters enough to be surrounded by people and energy that pull it out of you. Your physical space also plays a role. A cluttered room leads to a cluttered mind. A disorganized desk creates scattered focus. The way you keep your space reflects the way you manage your thoughts. If you want clarity, create a space that supports clarity. If you want discipline, design an environment that rewards discipline. Simple changes matter. Having a space to read, a place to write, a room where you can think, removing distractions that tempt you to waste time. These are small things, but they make a massive difference in your ability to stay consistent. Energy is contagious. Whether you realize it or not, the energy in your environment is constantly influencing your emotions and decisions. You can walk into a room and feel drained without anyone saying a word. You can be around certain people and feel discouraged without them even realizing it. But the opposite is also true. You can be in the presence of someone focused, and suddenly you feel inspired. You can hear a single conversation, and your perspective opens up. That's the power of your environment. It's always working on you, even when you're not paying attention. That's why successful people are so careful about who they allow into their space. They know that mindset is fragile and must be protected. They don't tolerate constant drama. They don't engage in small talk that leads nowhere. They keep people around them who are honest, focused, and committed to growth. Because they understand that even one negative voice, consistently heard, can derail months of progress, and they're not willing to pay that price. They'd rather be alone and focused than surrounded and confused. Your environment should reflect the life you want, not the life you're trying to escape. If you want peace, create space for peace. If you want momentum, create space that fuels movement. If you want success, build a culture around you where success is normal. That might mean setting boundaries. That might mean having hard conversations. That might mean spending more time alone, at least for a while. But in that space, growth begins. Because when the environment aligns with your vision, every action becomes easier. This is not about perfection. It's not about creating some flawless bubble around you. It's about awareness. It's about knowing that your future is too important to leave in the hands of an unhealthy environment. You may not be able to control everything around you, but you can control more than you think. You can choose what to watch, what to listen to, who to engage with, what to tolerate. And those choices, made daily, become the silent architects of your future. The environment you allow today will either nurture the best version of you or suppress it. It will either push you toward your goals or pull you away from them. And once you understand that, you begin to take it seriously. You begin to look around and ask, does this space reflect my next level? You begin to protect your peace, elevate your standards, and align your surroundings with the life you're building. And when that alignment happens, growth no longer feels forced. It becomes natural, inevitable, and deeply fulfilling.